Hi, this is old Claude again. I want to talk with you today about a specific promise given first to Solomon and for Israel, and then how we can tap into that and apply it to the church and America today. That promise is this, 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. From the very beginning, Israel, and we've come to generally equate Israelite and Jew to make them one, but first they were Hebrews and didn't really become Jews until after pretty much after the Babylonian captivity. The nation was divided between the northern kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and the dominant tribe of the southern kingdom was Judah, and we come to speak of them as the Jews. Well, Israel as a nation, first the Hebrews and then the Jews or whatever, were tied specifically to the land. And so much so that a principle can be said to be established that any time Israel was out of the land as a people or a state or whatever, that was a sign of God's judgment upon them. And you had this with their being caught, with Judah's being caught into captivity by the Babylonians. First, the northern kingdom had been taken away by the Assyrians. Then the southern kingdom later was caught into captivity in Babylon by the Babylonians for 70 years. Now, you may not know exactly why 70 years. Now, let me give you just a little piece of information in case you're ever on jeopardy and need to answer this question. The reason why the Jews were in Babylon for 70 years is that they had not let the land lie fallow as they were supposed to once every 7 years. They'd not done so for 490 years. And this was to enable the land to replenish itself. And if a guy happened to be where they do dry land farming like we do in western Kansas, so much of the area is dry land, then you have to let the land lie fallow once a year anyway. If you got 1,000 acres, that means at the max you're going to be planting 500 to wheat, if we're talking about wheat, and or whatever else you may plant. Okay, and that's not taking into consideration the restrictions of government programs and so forth. But anyway, back to Israel. They had not let that land lie fallow for 490 years, and the Lord said, "Now we're going to give you a chance to catch that up." Now the land then would have to be reestablished, weeds would have to be gotten rid of, and all that sort of stuff. But then let's enter in the promise that came from God. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. So Israel comes back into the land. Now, and then there are the Jews. The Jews come back into the land, and they had to rebuild and all this sort of stuff, okay? Now, let's say the Jews are back in the land, and they're there from that point in history to 70 A.D., okay? And then in 70 A.D., the Romans ransacked the city. They totally destroyed the land, the temple, everything. And the Jews they didn't kill, they caught away into captivity. So from 70 A.D. until 1948, there wasn't a formal presence of the Jew in the land of Israel, or the land of Palestine. Okay? It was Palestine until 1948, whenever that's what the Romans called it. And then in 1948, it was declared to be a nation, May the 7th, 1948. All right. Today, we've got the same situation. We have Jews who are in America, very comfortable, in New York City, in Miami, Los Angeles, wherever they may be concentrated, in Latin America. But this is the way it was prior to World War II. God was trying to get the people back into the land, to start them going back into the land. And there was a fellow by the name of Theodore Herzl who was going everywhere, just teaching about the possibility of Jews going back to Palestine to begin to restore the land. And Jews all over Europe were not attracted by this at all, because they felt themselves to be happy in the land in each nation where they were. The German Jews felt like, hey, we're Germans. The Polish Jews felt like, hey, we're Poles. But God was trying to get them out. And there is a scripture, it says, God first sends the fisherman, and then he sends the hunter. And what he tried to do was lure the Jews in Europe back to Palestine with the promise of rebuilding. And man, that didn't appeal to them at all. And that was the fisherman, the call of the fisherman. Then God sent the hunter, and most of them didn't make it out of their respective countries. Well, believe it or not, the same thing is going to happen in America and wherever Jews may be today. And if there are Jews listening to this little segment, you need to understand that though you cannot feature it right now, though you may be comfortable being in New York City or being in Miami or Los Angeles or wherever, history is going to repeat itself, and I'm sorry to say, but it's necessary that we Americans are going, we'll turn against you. And I'm so sorry for that, but that's just the way it's going to be. The Christians won't turn against you. But God needs to get you back in the land, to get you there to be ready to receive the Messiah when he comes again. And so you need to get out now while you can take your possessions with you as much as you can, or send it over, take your gold, whatever. But you need to get out. Now, with that severe word, let me say, blessings.